Hey friends, welcome to St. Jude's Beauty Night. I just startled everybody by clapping, and so that's why you saw all the muscles jerk. But we are so excited to have a special guest here. We have Rachel Walter with us, who is going to talk to us. We're actually in her studio, and we're very excited about that, trying to keep the right distance here, but we felt like her take on where science and beauty combine is something that would be a gift to you all, and so we're really excited to be here. So Mark, why don't you open us in prayer, and then we'll jump in.
Let's pray. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Mason, for letting us hang out here. And thanks, Austin, for being the director-producer.
Our millennials here helping us.
So let's pray. Lord, thank you for this night. Thank you for the hospitality of Rachel and Mason as we hear your story through Rachel. Help us learn about the beauty of art and gazing at the skies you made, and also help us learn about each other. Draw us closer to you and to one another, we ask in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Rach, for letting us do this.
Yeah, I'm so happy we could do it.
Love it. Well, why don't we, I'm sure a lot of people at St. Jude know who you are, but I'm sure plenty more don't. And who doesn't love a good story? So why don't you start us off by just telling us your story and how you got into doing art professionally?
Yeah, so I'm Rachel Walter, and I've been painting and drawing for as long as I could hold an implement of some kind. So I started painting professionally just right out of college. I went to UT, I got my BA in studio art, and
Talk about your senior show.
I had a senior show. It went
how
really
did you do
well.
at the senior show?
Don't be modest.
I did great.
How great?
I won.
Yeah.
That's right.
I got my paint. That was my first kind of solo exhibition at at the W Hotel in Austin. So that was
Very
like
cool.
kind of when I knew like, okay, I can do this. I can share what I know to be something I feel very passionate about and care about with the world, and people will respond to it and feel something when they see it. So yeah, from there I had already met Mason, and so we got married, and I knew I wanted to do this full time, paint, draw all day, every day, in between my other jobs that helped me kind of fund my way through that. So yeah, haven't looked back since. It's been 2 years since we moved here to Dallas, and the art scene is awesome. So
I love it. One of the things we've talked about is you have a really unique eye for what you're in fact, I'm sure you guys can see some of the art behind us if you've followed her on Instagram, and which if you haven't, hop on there, Rachel Walter Art, right? Rachel Walter Art. And so she has skies and nature, and sort of that being, I want you to go ahead and categorize it yourself, so I'm going to let you do that. And then also why that was the thing that you started painting.
yeah, with my art, I'm always thinking about how art and science interconnect and have a relationship. And so that started when I was really young. I've always had an interest in both art and science, and I grew up going stargazing with my family. We were all really into it, and that kind of started with my mom's dad, who was this brilliant composer at UNT. Actually, he was a piano teacher, and he also had this deep love for the night sky. And I actually he gave me, when he passed away.
This is your grandpa?
Yeah. He gave me his old sky atlas.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it has all these, I've been like still working on it, but it has all these photos that he cut out from magazines and has them like mapped in where they are in the sky.
Let's pick that up and show everybody at home, because this is amazing. So pictures and then mapped where you would see it within the sky.
Yeah.
That is
Like
really
different
cool.
nebulae and stuff, and like their names, like NGC 281, and
I learned all this from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, so
yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fully
Exactly.
tracking 100%.
Yeah. And so he has all these really brilliant photos that
Amazing.
he spent so much time tracking down and putting them, like mapping them out and everything. So
I don't know if y'all can see this, but she's like holding up these masterpieces, and then right behind it is her version of these masterpieces that she has painted, which is of course incredible that she can paint what she sees in those. So
yeah, so that kind of started it. It was like always been in my family, that art, music, for my mom's dad, my grandfather. art and science together, particularly with the stars, because that's just kind of like a universal way that people have always really like felt that awesome power like speak to them, is when they look up in the night sky and you see stars. And so that kind of stuck with me. And then as I was painting and really trying to figure out who I am as an artist and like what I really want to focus on, that kind of kept coming back to me. It was like definitely always drew from nature because I love the outdoors, but the night sky was just like this powerful thing that like I just couldn't get enough of like learning about astronomy, cosmology, all of that. And so on the macro level and the micro level, I just like was really into the way art and science blended together.
I love it.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen any other artists that had that kind of interest in cosmology that you could model yourself after? Or
Sure, yeah. So I found out about this artist named Viga Selmans. She is Latvian American and does these really intricate charcoal drawings. And she did something that I've tried to do several times, and it's painstaking, but she would grid out certain like star fields in the sky and like put every star in its place. And her work was small, which was the smart way to do it because it takes so long to do that. But I really drew a lot of inspiration from her discipline and her ability to really capture the night sky in hyperrealism.
explain, you just said hyperrealism. What do you mean?
Yeah, like true to life. Like looks exactly like a photograph, pretty much, except better. And that was what she could do just with a graphite pencil.
It's amazing. Okay, so I know nothing about the artistic process. I even told y'all about my one foray into clay art, to where I stormed out of the classroom angrily. And so let's take from a blank canvas to you're ready to hand this off to be in a gallery, or to, if you've been commissioned. Talk us through your process. Like how do you get from blank canvas to an incredible piece of art?
Well, it'll either start with an idea I've had, like some kind of thought that's been recurring in my mind, like I really want to just like explore this idea. Maybe it came to me in like a dream or something, because sometimes that does happen with like more of these dreamlike paintings.
Is that an example right there?
This is an example, yes, of when I was thinking about looking up at the sky and I mean, I don't really know. Who knows what dreams, how they really, what they mean or how they communicate thoughts and ideas or where they come from. But this is kind of a painting that came out of a dream because I didn't use a particular reference photo for it. Sometimes that'll happen where if I have a photograph to work with, like that one over there, which I don't know if we'll see.
We'll take a photo of it. We'll put it in we'll edit that in.
Yeah, that one was like right out the like with these pecan trees up here with the moon. And so that was kind of what inspired that. So I'll either see something or I'll dream something, or someone will give me a photo for a commission and they'll say like, I really want this particular time and place to be commemorated. And so depending on what that is, how it starts, I'll kind of just launch into it with some sketches, little studies, little paintings that sort of introduce the idea on a small scale. So from there I can build and really get a feel for how the colors are going to look and how to kind of like a practice round. Like I'll do kind of block in the colors and get an idea of like where my values are, how high do I want the highlights to be, how pushed down and darkened the shadows need to be to really make the message come through.
Can you talk a little bit about color theory, Rachel? Because working with blacks I know is very difficult.
Yeah.
So, and you make it seem seamless. So explain a little bit about color theory and why painting with black is always a challenge.
Sure, yeah. Well, I never do paint with black. I mix my own, which is like the first thing they teach you in art school is like, okay, now make black. And like, they don't really tell you anything else. They just see who can get the darkest black with their colors. And so I have like ultramarine blue, which is like a very rich, kind of like a reddy, warm blue. And then I'll use like pure crimson red and maybe like a little bit of like viridian green, and those are like really dark saturated colors that when you put them together, and if I'm feeling kind of lazy, I'll mix like raw umber in there, and that really kind of knocks it down so there's no purple showing through. And yeah, those like specific colors will get you like a really dark value, and that kind of helps when you're just like glazing over a painting that maybe isn't like as dark as you need it to be. Like if some of these shadows in here are kind of looking green and I want to knock them back, I'll just like go over it again and again. And it's all kind of trial and error, to be honest.
It's incredible.
Thanks. This one's in progress.
I'd have been like, you buy black paint and you paint with black paint.
I have black paint just in case.
That's incredible. But I mean, it really is amazing how you can tell, like, it obviously gets deeper in the corners there and then lightens as you go up.
And this is acrylic, which is like, since I've been working from home, I've been using acrylics because they're non-toxic and they don't produce the fumes. Yeah, so that smell that you're smelling, we don't know what it is. But yeah, normally in like my other studio at the Cedars Union, I'll use oils, and those are like even richer. So the colors that oil paintings can achieve are like just, when you see them in person, they just like knock you back because they can get so rich.
I love it. So I have a science degree, which is I think part of why I'm really drawn to your art, because I feel like in some ways I understand it. There are plenty of times when I come to some pieces of art that I need really someone to help me feel what it is I think the artist wants me to feel or understand. And you recently talked, and when you put an Instagram post up and talked about the interplay between science and beauty. And I know for me, so I have a zoology degree, and I remember every time I would encounter something new from the animal kingdom, like the extravagance of the blue whale and the giraffe, like as God's creating the world, you're like, there's no point to a giraffe, like there's no point to a blue whale, except that we have them, right? And we continue to discover things that we hadn't even seen before, and I feel like that's a lot of the cosmos as well. And so I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, so if you don't feel this, feel free to be like, pass. But I would love to know, just for you as a believer, as someone who worships the triune God who created the world and everything in it, do you see, like, is that part of this capturing as well as trying to capture the extravagance that you see in that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like it's the macro and the micro. So it's like everything from just like the overwhelming forces of nature that make us feel really small in comparison, which is like a very direct kind of like God feeling that people get a lot. But then also like what I do every day, which is watch paint dry, I know, because there's that interplay between the science and the art, I know that like there's actually a lot going on, and it's like super exciting to watch paint dry, because really what's happening is all these atoms are like jiggling around and then they're jumping into the air and evaporating off the painting, and that's what's actually drying. And so, see, atoms.
Yeah, I mean, normally
happening.
atoms don't do that, but entropy,
right on cue.
Yeah.
But
do the colors change sometimes? Are you anticipating? Give us an example. So when you know that if you mix this and this, as it dries, give us an effect that you like to pull out when you say, because you really, I can see in your eyes, you like watching paint dry. Because something's happening.
I've never met anybody who enjoys watching paint dry.
Something's going on at that process, right? Something's going on. So does it get brighter? Does it get darker? What happens to the paint when?
It does get a little darker. It'll kind of dull a little bit, which makes it really hard when you're a slow worker like I am, and you have a painting in progress and you want to match a specific color, because it'll dry a little darker than it goes on wet. So when you're mixing and you're putting it on the painting, you're like, oh, I hope this was it, like. But then, if I want to slow down the evaporation process, I can just cover my paints and put them in the fridge, and then that's slowing down the jiggling, and so that they don't dry out, and so I can go back and use those paints. And oils last a long time, so I'll just like leave my oil palette out and they'll still be workable the next day or something. But yeah, color mixing and matching is one of the harder parts of like painting something with a consistent look. If you like to work big, it's really challenging, but yeah, I mean, if you know the science behind it, it's really exciting.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we all hear about writer's block, although you are somebody who just said you enjoy watching paint dry, so maybe this isn't you. But I think that's one of the things about creatives is like there's a frustration that sometimes comes in work, right?
Yeah.
The lack of inspiration, or you know, I think it mostly for writers. I have so many friends who that's what they do professionally. They sit down at the keyboard and nothing comes. Do you have that experience? And if so, what are the things that you do to sort of reinvigorate the work that you do?
Yes, I have it a lot.
Mason, does she have it a lot?
She does a lot of thinking.
Okay.
And yeah, whenever I can tell when she's got a little bit of block, because I'll walk back here and she'll just be staring at the wall, and you can just tell her mind is
I
going.
love it.
It's paralyzing,
Yeah.
that feeling of like there are so many things I could do and I want to do, but I just don't know, or I will kind of talk myself out of doing it before I even start.
Mm.
And so I guess but the thing is like that just not doing anything feeds it, so it makes it worse the less
More you
action
work.
I take.
Yeah.
So if I can actually just do something, even if it's like a quick sketch or something like that, it doesn't have to be on theme, you know, I can just like try to kind of like work through that physically, and there might be a little bit of a mental to physical disconnect, but it's part of that training your body to be productive and to kind of fight that block. But what helps me the most is listening to Star Talk radio, you know, something to kind of get me inspired and sort of back into this feeling of like, wow, like look at that. Isn't that just wonderful what God has created, and we can understand it. Our conscious minds can tap into that tension between the unknown and the known, and we can sort of interpret this universal language, which is math, science. You know, there's a way that we can kind of tap into it and then interpret it and make it something imbued with meaning, and it will evoke some sort of feeling.
I love that. I mean, yeah, it speaks to like the accessibility of your art, of like literally people on the entire globe can experience what it is that you're painting and seeing and talking about, of like there is a shared, I think that's one of the things I loved about science is there's a shared language. I mean, there's a reason why there's even like a scientific community that shares the way we name it, and so what your art is offering people is all people can sort of access this art. Okay, so people are bored at home right now. They've run out, all the Tiger King episodes are gone, all the Ozark episodes, everything. Where do they turn to be inspired by the cosmos? You just said Star Radio, but what are the other things that if you were going to say, hey, you want to be wowed by something in the sky, watch this? And maybe I'm putting you on the spot, but.
Oh man, well, Netflix and Hulu they've got some great documentaries. You can just browse through any of those and they're great.
Okay.
You know, there was, like last year was the Apollo anniversary, and they had so many great releases for that. And I mean, that's just so inspiring, because not only does that talk about, you know, space exploration and, you know, crossing into the unknown, but also it's like the human spirit going out there and what we're capable of too. So there's a mix of that kind of like more of like a psychological element to it, and it's very emotional to see that happen. But yeah, I mean, just being outside and really trying to see things as more than what they are is really kind of what I've always been able to do, even if the worst were to happen and Netflix were to go away, you know?
Can you imagine?
Yeah, I know, we would be history, but you can, like, going outside is so good to do right now, and that's kind of one of the things people are being encouraged to do, and I love that, because there are so many wonderful things that you can see in a new light when you know that there's actually a lot going on there, and shadows become shapes of their own as opposed to just like something you don't even think about. And so yeah, there's beauty everywhere, and tonight you can see in the night sky Venus.
I love it.
Yeah, she's out to the west just after sunset.
Okay, to the west out.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. You could see, I think it was Jupiter and Saturn this morning, but they're like down there now. So
Yeah.
you can't
I didn't see them.
Yeah.
I wasn't up.
No.
I'll say hi
It
tomorrow.
was pretty early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rachel, looking at your pieces, you invite really close visual encounters for the viewer. I've been around a lot of artists, and the kind of optimal, kind of imaginative viewing space is sometimes 6 to 10 feet away, and the closer you get, the visual imagination is deteriorated a little bit because they want you to see it from an 8 or 10 foot perspective. But just when you talked about the night sky, you want people to get as close as they can, don't you? And that's unusual. I've not seen any other artists most artists don't do that. You have a super wide visual field for the viewer.
Mm.
Why do you do that? Why do you?
I mean, I think it's just, I can't really help it. You know, I just want to get really detailed because I know that that's kind of how things are made.
Right.
And
But
so
you want people to do the same thing. You want them to be right there if they want to be, right?
oh yeah, I mean, I would want people to touch it. I have this big painting that I had in a show at 500X Gallery in December, and it's really textural. It's a big night sky piece, and all the stars are really kind of three-dimensional on there. And so I would want people to get as close to kind of be able even to feel it if they wanted to.
I tried that once and that didn't go well.
Yeah, they don't let you do it at like the high-end galleries.
Yeah,
500X was
I
cool.
was at the Louvre and leaned over something I didn't realize was a thing, and the alarm definitely went
Yeah.
off. So
Yeah.
Where's the 500X? You talked about that briefly.
Well, they just closed down, which is
Oh.
very sad. I know. There
Is
was
that the one on Jefferson?
Where is it? It's on Exposition. That's why it's called 500X. I just
Oh.
forgot that.
like the design district or no?
No, it's in Deep Ellum
Okay.
on Exposition. 500. That's the address.
Yeah.
500 Exposition.
Ah.
But yeah, it's been around for 40 years,
Wow.
and they
Recently closed.
are
This is an evil disease that we're fighting. Okay,
It wasn't
obviously it's
because
hard
of
to play
COVID.
favorites, but I mean, if someone asked me my favorite animal, I would say lion. Is there a favorite thing in the sky for you? Is there something that when you get to see it or think about it or paint it, you're like, that like for some reason has captured your attention?
Oh my gosh, I don't know how to answer this question. I gotta be
Which
honest.
of your children are your favorite?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like I could not tell you. I mean, it's like I love black holes. I love dark matter, and I don't even know what it is, which
Yeah.
means I also love dark energy because I don't know what that is either. But they're at odds, and we don't know what they're doing.
Mhm.
I love
Yet. We don't know yet.
right.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, we could find that's part of the excitement, right? It's
Maybe
like
one day.
Maybe one day we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Maybe. Yeah.
and it just keeps going. You
Yeah.
know, like. I mean, not that long ago we thought the Earth was flat. Some
That's
people
right.
still do.
Kyrie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not judging.
Yeah. I mean, well,
A little bit.
it's not flat, but you know, it's fine. I think that is one of the exciting. I mean, I know for like part of my science degree was learning even just the history of thought of we used to think this and now we know this and even fields like genetics and I think space exploration really exploded with the advent of time or space travel and all of that. I think that's part of the excitement for me, and it seems like it is for you based on your smile, and it's just we don't know, but there is this yet to the end of it. It feels like there's the opportunity for God to keep revealing some of his extravagance for us, and as he does that, I think we're meant to respond in awe and
Yes.
continued reverence and worship of the God who says that all of this declares his glory. And so to have dark matter that 100 years ago you could say that and people are like, what's dark matter? What's a black hole? And you know, and so then it's fun to see Marvel play off of these ideas, these unknown ideas, and see like what could be, you know, traveling through whatever I don't know, made up science, but yeah, it's exciting.
Hey Rich, when you look at one of your paintings, can you show us pick out one, where does your eye go first, and then where does it go second and third and fourth? Where do you see like this is the direction I see, or where I'm drawn to?
Well, it's different for all of them, so just pick one and
then do the next one. Yeah, show us one.
Do this one.
this one.
Yeah.
Okay,
It'll be easy for them at home
Yeah.
to see.
so this one's in progress right now, and I think like I'm doing this off of this
Right.
study. That I made. So this is like what I was talking about, a little color study just to get my values and lights and darks and kind of lay out the composition. And this is actually a different size, like a different proportion. So it, there was some squishing I did, but I wanted it to be something that you looked up and down at. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's kind of why I'm so into trees right now, because they're all outside my windows, and so I get to look at them all the time. But they're kind of this symbolic natural element that is basically, like you said, like look up, like they go from us on the earth and stretch up to the sky. And so
I love that.
I think for me, like I kind of start around here, sort of more towards the middle bottom. I think there's some kind of study on like where people's eyes go, like, left to right, top to bottom, kind of like how you've always done things. And like when you look at a face, like which eye you look at first and kind of how you trace different features. And so I think some of that carries over to more organic forms in a painting, not just on a face or on a piece of text or something like that.
Like we've been trained our whole lives, sort of left to right and look that way and kind of,
So I'm sure there's an element of that to it. For me, I think because this is my painting, I always look for the parts that I want to fix first. So I'm like, ooh, that doesn't look the way, like that's I need to do that when y'all leave. But I think, I think the hope is that when it's a little bit more rendered, there will be sort of certain points that kind of keep commanding your attention in a direction that goes a little bit from like this middle bottom up, and you're kind of just you're scanning for features.
Okay, so when are you done? I think one of the things I've learned from artist friends is the restraint it takes to be done. And I think that comes with maturity and growth as an artist. So how do you know when you're done?
How do I know? I guess you kind of just, you get really close and then you stand back and you do that about 17,000 times.
Yeah.
And then like on the 17,000th time, you kind of go, okay, it sings. Like it feels like I can't do anything more to it, because if I did, I would be, I would be taking away what it has. Mm-hmm. And then I think also, I lost my train of thought. Never mind.
No. That was a good answer. That was a really good answer.
And looking at these other pieces, it looks, your eyes go up and down on a lot of these rather than left or right, because, isn't that true? And how you draw, that's really smart. Very, very different.
Well, thanks. And then like certain ones, there's a certain point of
focus.
It's like really obvious, and so that's kind of your main focal point. And so you kind of go from middle out.
Mm-hmm. But even there, you go up and down with the reflection of the moonlight.
Yeah. Oh, I take a picture. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, and sometimes I'll even like use a mirror. Like we have that big mirror out in the dining room, and I'll like carry my painting in front of the mirror and look at it.
Yeah.
And that points out all the flaws, just for some reason. I don't know why. Because you're not seeing it as you've been seeing it. You're seeing it differently. And so if you take a picture, it shrinks it down, and little things become more obvious. And then taking it out in front of a mirror will show you kind of where you need to work on some more.
Actually, these are beautiful. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this series is about bringing something to the St. Jude family. It's about saying, listen, we have an abundance of beauty. And I mean, are you kidding me? Look at what we brought you tonight. We're starting strong, Carl and Rachel, and we're going to keep going. But this is such a weird season, right? I mean, part of why we're doing this is because the pandemic is just really ugly. And I think it's exhausting and it's tiring, and yet we live in a world that is full of God's beauty and God's goodness. And so, Rach, people can't come with you because we're social distancing. But if people were to go on a nature walk with you, maybe around these parts, what are the things that you would just, like, what's the process? Like, is it stopping every 10 feet and looking around? Is it, how would you encourage folks to look for the things that aren't there? Like, just to give, people, if you want to go out and sort of try and see the world the way that an artist does, which we know we're all trying to do that, but what are just some things you'd encourage folks to do?
Sure. I think it starts with asking questions. and just kind of wondering why things are the way they are. Like, you know, why does this sycamore tree like look smooth at the top and then all crumbly and barky at the bottom? Like, why does it change like that? And why are all these little brown things falling from the trees?
Yes,
and
why
turning everything
is that
green,
happening
you know?
right now?
Yeah.
And my eyes are bloodshot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
more questions
Yeah.
like that, they really draw you closer, and not just to nature, but like to, you know, God's like voice in through that. And so you really get a sense of like connection to just this new side of being alive, and like things are really hard, and some people are just thrust into situations that are just like really ugly, but yeah, there's always something more beyond that you can look for and you can pay attention to. And I think in that energy there's beauty, and that's how you find it. You start asking those questions.
I love that.
Do you paint with music on? Do you paint in quiet? What's your preferred ambient environment?
It does depend, but when I do like really detailed work, I can't listen to music because I'll dance. and it doesn't work for this, unfortunately. But I do take breaks and then I will dance. But I love listening to podcasts. I mean, it really makes the time fly.
Number 1 podcast, number 2 podcast. What are your podcasts?
I love Star Talk Radio. They just did they put a really interesting one out on theoretical physics that is like,
I love it.
It is so
That's exactly
awesome.
how we all feel.
You're such a
Yeah.
nerd. That's awesome.
It's Neil deGrasse Tyson and then his comedic co-host Chuck Nice, who's hilarious, and they get on there and they're just like broing out. It's so funny. And then they bring on like special guests, like Bill Nye will come on, and Jan 11, like all these different brilliant minds will speak about just the most mind-blowing things. And so if you can get your mind blown, like, I mean, once a day would be great, but like once a week, if you can listen to something like that and really tune in, is really awesome. But I also love Dateline podcasts. Any kind of like TV show that's now a podcast. I love it. So
I can't say that I don't. Yeah, there's so many interesting.
I had to be honest. I didn't want to just make it sound like, oh, I only listen to space stuff. No, I love
Dateline. Yeah.
Dateline.
Yeah. My mom recently had surgery on her eyes, and so the first couple of days they were so swollen she couldn't open them. And so I asked her, "So what have you been doing?" And she said, "Oh, listening to murder shows. You don't have to watch them to know what's going on." I was like, but you know. The honesty is refreshing, so you know.
It's great storytelling. Yeah. Keith Morrison's voice in the background just really ups your productivity.
I love it. All right, well, friends, obviously this is such a good. Rach, I want you. We're not promoting it for the sake of trying to sell her art, although she's an artist and her art is for sale. And so I do want to give you a chance, just for folks to get to see more of your art. Do you have website, something that you can just let our folks know in case they want to look at more stuff? And RachelWalter.com.
Love it. That's where I put my portfolio. And hopefully when things are looking a little more social again, I'll be able to have a show and everyone's invited.
That's awesome.
Love it. All right, any closing thoughts?
Oh, this has been terrific. Thank you, Rachel. Thanks, Mason. And thanks, Austin, for doing this. Thanks, Max.
Love it.
Right.
Well, it wouldn't be a St. Jude thing if we didn't say this. If nobody's told you today they love you, we do. But far more importantly, the God of the heavens is crazy about you all. Peace and grace, friends.
Love you guys.